Today, we're jumping into ANDHER, a really powerful short story. It kicks off with what seems like a simple village rivalry, but it quickly peels back the layers to show us a corruption that's much deeper, much more sinister. It's a story about what happens when the lines between victory, being a victim, and getting justice they get terrifyingly blurry.
So our story is set in these two neighboring villages, Sathe and Pathe, and for as long as anyone can remember, their entire reason for being is just to one-up each other. And look, this isn't some friendly competition. We're talking about a deep-seated feud that basically defines their entire lives.
And you want to know how deep this rivalry goes? It's literally the first thing their children learn. The songs they sing are all about boasting about their own village's strength and, of course, throwing insults at their neighbors. It's not just a competition anymore. It's a culture that's been passed down for generations.
So you've got all this tension, right? This year-long buildup of posturing and trash talk. It all comes to a head on one single day, the Nag Panchami festival. This is the ultimate battleground. This is where honor is won and lost, not just for the wrestlers, but for everyone in their village.
And in a world with stakes this high, every village needs a hero. For the village of Sathe, that hero is a man named Gopal. He is their champion, the guy carrying the weight of his entire village's pride right on his shoulders. So we get to the main event, and it's Gopal versus Pathe's champion, a guy named Baldev. It's a classic matchup, really. You've got Gopal, who's all about skill and strategy, going up against Baldev, who is just a powerhouse of pure, raw strength. The crowd is electric because everybody knows this is way more than just a fight.
And after this tense battle of wits and wills, Gopal does it. He wins. He brings all this glory to Sathe and gets celebrated like a king. But for Baldev and the village of Pathe, this is the ultimate humiliation. I mean, their faces are just masks of pure fury, and you just know this is far from over.
But this is where the story takes a really sharp, really dark turn. The celebration and the glory of the day, it all gives way to something much more ominous as night falls. See, the victory was public, but the revenge, that's going to be done in secret.
So picture this. Gopal's out there all by himself, guarding the fields under a sky with no moon, no stars. The darkness is just absolute. It's that kind of thick, heavy blackness that feels like it could swallow you whole.
And then, in that complete and total silence, he hears something. A faint footstep. Just a whisper of a sound. But in that kind of darkness, it's as loud as a gunshot. He just tenses up, listening.
And then, bam! Without any warning, a crushing blow from a heavy staff hits his head from behind. He just crumples to the ground, ambushed by the men from Pathe, and they leave him for dead right there in the field. Now, Gopal actually survives the night, but when the morning comes, a new and honestly a far more dangerous enemy shows up. And it's not the rival villagers, it's the local police inspector, the Daroga, a man who represents a whole different kind of darkness.
So who is this Daroga guy? Well, he is a master of hypocrisy. On the outside, he's deeply religious, prays 5 times a day. But in private, he's vicious and abusive. For him, justice isn't some high-minded principle. It's a product, a commodity, and it has a price tag.
You're not going to believe this. The Daroga shows up not to help, but to extort. He completely twists the law around, declaring that Gopal, the victim, is actually a criminal himself because he didn't report the attack immediately. It's just a blatant shakedown disguised as some kind of official procedure.
And Gopal, even though he's still injured and in pain, is absolutely furious. He refuses to be extorted, he stands on principle, yelling that he hasn't done anything wrong, and he's not going to pay a single coin for this so-called justice. But his wife, Gaura, she sees the situation completely differently. She's not thinking about principles, she's thinking about survival. She knows the system is corrupt, and she knows the only way to save her husband from being arrested, or maybe even worse, is to just pay the price.
And this is where you see just how deep the rod goes. Gaura gives 50 rupees to the village headman to pay the bribe. But the headman, he secretly skims half for himself before giving the rest to the Daroga. In this system, it turns out everyone with a little bit of power takes their cut, and the actual victim is just left with nothing.
Okay, so this is where the story's real gut-wrenching irony comes into full view. The villagers, who have no idea about the bribe, are about to see these events in a completely different way than Gopal, the man who actually lived through it all.
So, once the daroga leaves, the village just erupts in celebration. They believe the danger is gone because of some kind of miracle. They decide they have to hold a religious ceremony to thank the gods for protecting their hero, Gopal.
During the ceremony, the village leaders all gather around Gopal. Even the headman, yep, the same guy who stole from him, is there, telling him with what seems like sincere belief that it was divine grace, the glory of the god Satyanarayan, that saved him. And this brings us to the final, crucial moment. I mean, think about it. Gopal has been celebrated as a hero, beaten half to death, and then extorted by the very system that's supposed to protect him. He has seen the ugly truth behind this miracle. So what does he say?
As everyone is praising the gods, Gopal just looks at them and says, "This is not divine glory. This is ANDHER." And that word ANDHER is so important because it means both darkness and injustice. He isn't just saying what happened was unfair. He's saying the entire system, this whole belief in a miracle that just ignores the corrupt reality, that is the true darkness. And that's the devastating truth right at the heart of this story.